All right, we are recording. Um, could I get some mic checks here? We know Michael is working. Society, mic check, please.
Hello, hello.
Sounds good. Marcin, could we get a mic check on you, please? Marcin, maybe if you're having trouble with your sound, if you could just write in that and let us know, and we can speak, we can read anything you write in the chat if you're having trouble with your microphone. Just like to know if we have real people and not trolls here. Okay. I am going to start screen sharing. We are lucky enough tonight, we have the creator of Agora, which is the basis that we use for our meetings, to share ideas, rate them, and create our politicians through this. And Sazadi, you can jump in and correct me if I say anything wrong, or I can give you an opportunity when I'm done here to correct anything I've done wrong. Here's our Agora page where you can see all the users. We have a bunch of nations listed here. We have people from all over the world that have written up their ideas. This is where you write up your ideas. And then we bring them forth in these meetings for discussion. We ask people for agreement and if they're in support of them, and the ideas that have the most support will make it to the top. And then Agora users can use them to create their public platforms to become politicians or any other way they'd like to use these ideas that are proven to be popular with the general public. This is my profile. We have 23 point ideas, and then you can add more than that. There's 0 point ideas. And you can look under users, you can search by name or nation. I am going to bring up Lois, who is the person that has created the Equal Rights Amendment idea that I'm going to use. Right here, it's her number 21 idea. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but Lois presented this weekend on Sunday, and boy, it was just a super great discussion. We had a lawyer also at the meeting, and the lawyer said that it was a really lawyerly work that she did here. So for the Equal Rights Amendment, I'll just read a few of these paragraphs and then skip to the end. An Equal Rights Amendment has been introduced over 1,000 times in Congress and continues to be a factor in United States politics. The original wording was as follows: men and women shall have equal rights throughout the United States and every place subject to its jurisdiction. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. It may come as a surprise that this 1923 ERA was opposed by both feminists and trade unionists. The labor movement stood against the ERA, as did several women's organizations, including the National Women's Trade Union League and the League of Women Voters. Industrial medicine pioneer Alice Hamilton disapproved of the Equal Rights Amendment, as did Mary Anderson. She threw her weight into the fight against the amendment when she served as director of the U.S. Women's Bureau, an organization founded to guide and assist female workers. So then, who did stand for the Equal Rights Amendment? The National Women's Party, which engaged perhaps only 5% of suffragists at the time. Instead of using educative, bipartisan grassroots strategies, this organization focused on partisan, militant, top-down techniques to achieve their goals. It should be noted that even within the NWP, there was controversy on the ERA. Much of the controversy and opposition was rooted in concerns that an ERA could be used to prevent legislation that would protect women. Almost a century later, this remains a relevant point. Penny Nance is president of Concerned Women for America, the nation's largest public policy women's organization. She pointed out that if an equal rights amendment were to be adapted into the Constitution today, around 800 laws that specifically impact or protect women could be undone. Among them are the Pregnancy Discrimination Act, the Women's and Infants Nutritional Program, and the Violence Against Women Act. Evaluating the ERA in modern times, we should keep in mind that this proposed amendment originated in a political and social environment very different from today. I love this list of things. It really opened my eyes. Back then, if a woman married a non-citizen, she would automatically lose her citizenship while men could keep theirs. Women could not serve on juries in 24 states. It was generally legal for employers to discriminate in compensation on the basis of sex, and up until 1978, women could get fired simply for becoming pregnant. But these complaints have been taken care of through the examples of these legislations that follow. Lois believes the Equal Rights Amendment is unnecessary legislation, but some say that it is still needed as a symbolic statement or a protection against the repealing of laws protecting equality. However, courts do not interpret the constitutional laws as symbolic statements, and the reality is that laws are far more often created than repealed. The ERA has potential to create more harm than good. Namely, the ERA would change classifications based on sex from intermediate scrutiny to strict scrutiny, making it on the same level as race, religion, and national origin. It would make unconstitutional any legislation which recognizes distinctions between women and men when science has shown that there are, in fact, biological and psychological distinctions. I'm going to skip to the last 3 paragraphs here, but this is really good reading. Even if a supermajority in Congress somehow succeeded in removing a deadline for a dead bill, there yet remains the matter of state rescissions. Nebraska, Tennessee, Idaho, Kentucky, and South Dakota rescinded their support before the 82 deadline. Most states mentioned the congressional deadline in their ratification statement, so it can be argued that their support would need to be re-earned as well. The late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has on 2 occasions stated that a movement for the Equal Rights Amendment would need to start over because the way that it has unfolded has been illegal. Rather than seeing another movement for a redundant amendment with potentially negative effects, Lois says, "My hope is that we can together redirect our energy towards things that will make a tangible difference in addressing real injustices in our world." I realized I didn't go through the opening notes. Would everybody like to do that, or should we just keep going?
It's your meeting.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know exactly what that entails, but whatever you want or think is right.
All right, well, I'll just keep moving here then. So I want to confess that I really did not have an understanding of what the ERA was when I heard that that was going to be the subject matter of a meeting last week. And so I realized that I had heard of it before. I really didn't understand it. I couldn't talk about it. And so I was wondering, did each of you know about this before the meeting? Michael, would you want to comment, please?
Outside of through school, like history courses, things like that, I got some knowledge of it, but I would say the same. Like I wouldn't really be comfortable giving a whole, conversation around the amendment and what exactly it entailed. So I'd say my understanding was about equal to yours.
Okay.
Or is
Cesar?
equal.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cesari, do you have any? Did you know about the ERA beforehand?
I may have heard about it in school, but it's not like a type of information I retain. This seems fresh again to me, so I can't really remember back to the last time I heard about it.
Thank you. Marcine, do you have any comments? Did you want to say your experience with the ERA? If you are having trouble with your mic, you can write in the chat and we will read your responses. Cynthia, did you have an understanding before that?
Oh, yes, I lived through it. I didn't know, like I didn't get a whole lot of the part as to why they were opposing its passage. But I just felt at that time that it seemed contrary to good society to be against something like that. And again, I would state, in reference to women losing their rights, well, no, equality means exactly what equality means. If men don't want to lose their benefits, then women don't want to lose their benefits. If men are, don't want to be raped, then probably women don't want to be raped either. You know what I'm saying? I'm just throwing that out there. If we had real equality, none of those laws would be necessary because it would already be equally against the law to live in the society that we wanted to live in. That's just my feeling on it.
All right. So I think one of the reasons why people opposed it was that women believed then all of the protections would be gone. And can you help me out here, Cynthia? One of the protections?
To keep from being fired because you're pregnant. And I would say that's the red herring. That's how they scared women at that time into believing that it was a bad idea. That's how they frightened women into not fighting for the equality that should have belonged to them. It was an alteration of perception, in my opinion.
All right. So generally speaking, I guess I'm interested in the masculine viewpoint. Do you guys, as men from the masculine viewpoint, have any opinions particularly about this? Or you're like, hey, no problem, pass whatever? Or does it bring up issues like, well, I think that could cause a concern?
Well, I guess one of the things that I was thinking with my kind of basic understanding of the amendment and kind of what you read through, I did understand the fact that like if it was passed, it would remove these protections that were already in place, and it would make it a lot harder to incorporate new legislation that would create further protections if those were so needed. Because like Cynthia was speaking on, if everything was equal and if those were truly, men and women are truly equal in society, then the issue of the law would not be necessary. So, just given the passage of this one legislation of the amendment, I don't think that necessarily would mean that, things are going to be equal. It may represent that, it might give more hope and more understanding and belief behind it. But I think it would be a lot harder, like was kind of written about that, it'd be harder to pass laws to, further, like in the future, if other issues happened, to protect women specifically, if, this law was to be equal and tie the two sexes in legislation. So I guess that's my opinion of it, on that side. As a man, I guess I have no issue with such legislation passing, or I think that as long as it empowers those that feel it necessary to have it done, and that it doesn't infringe on any other rights or the feelings of other people, I don't see any problem myself.
Thank you. Sai, do you have any comments?
So there are two things I can think of right now. One of those is a thought that I had after the other meeting that I watched, where it was discussed. But okay, so I suppose my first thought was back from a couple of weeks ago. Okay, I would like to know what those rights or what those things that people are concerned about women losing. Cynthia, could you mute yourself, please? So I'm concerned what specifically people are worried, what rights they're worried about people losing. Because my concern is that people are confusing rights with entitlements. And so, you could have equal rights. Like I suppose the whole citizenship thing. If a woman is a citizen, I don't know. I can't think of a really good example right now. But the point is, a right is a freedom to do something without the government, without any repercussions from the government. Whereas an entitlement is the government gives you something, and you're entitled to receiving something from the government. And there are things that one gender or one sex might be entitled to, that doesn't really have anything to do with rights, but well, it might be, yeah, it might be based on gender or sex, but then because of the rights, the confusion between rights and entitlements, they might lose that, or maybe they won't lose that, or maybe their rights should be equal, but maybe it's obvious that entitlements are different from rights. The other thought that I had was that I don't think men and women are the same. For example, and they shouldn't have the same rights. For example, if a woman gives birth to a child and for whatever reason, I don't know, there's some kind of a significant problem between the two parents, or the biological parents, then then the father would have equal rights to have the child with them as the mother. And if for whatever reason there's some kind of a real problem, I think by default the mother, at least until a certain age of the child, the mother should have the greater authority over who the child will stay with, unless of course she's messed up in some kind of way, then she's a danger to the child. Because it's not just about it's not equal. It's the woman and the child create almost like a symbiotic relationship that's biologically different from what a man and a woman would have. So totally not. So the rights should reflect that. They should be different. They should not be equal. All right, I'm going to stop there.
Okay. Cynthia, did you have any comments?
Well, because part of the ERA was women getting paid the same as men do for doing the same job, and I would consider that a right.
I also noticed in looking at that document again, the draft was a big deal that came up, and unisex bathrooms. Should everybody be allowed in the same bathrooms? And I actually wrote up an idea to take care of the bathroom issue. Cesare, is your hand up again? Or had you finished?
I am finished, but now that you brought up the bathroom thing, I think I did have something to say about that too.
Cynthia, were
But
you finished?
whenever it's whenever it's my turn again.
Cynthia, were you finished?
Yep.
Cesare, please.
So the bathroom thing, again, I was watching that discussion, and what occurred to me, I think that was about a week ago. And what occurred to me is that the bathroom problem, it has nothing to do with culture, gender, or anything. It has everything to do with economics. That's all it is. It's about people should actually have their own bathrooms, individual bathrooms. That's what it should be for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. So just provide the fucking bathroom so people have the privacy to do whatever the hell they want. It's as simple as that. If it costs more money, okay, we can afford that. It's not a big deal. So that should be the standard. This whole discussion is a complete diversion from the economic disparity of really the wealthy being able to go to nice bathrooms, and then the masses essentially, instead of eating from a trough, they're essentially pissing and shitting into a trough. So give people individual bathrooms, just like you eat from your own plate. You get your own bathroom. It solves everything.
I love that. That's very close to what I was talking about, although I'm trying to make it financial.
Aim to work on climate and infrastructure.
Daniel,
I forgot he was just 38. Just 38.
Okay, I got that. So have any of us been in and used a unisex bathroom? I have not. Okay, Michael, could you give us your feelings about that, your experience?
Actually, is my mic coming in fine? I don't know if I'm, okay, wait one second, let me just turn this off. But I feel like I have been in a unisex bathroom, or if not, it was one that had the option of the unisex or the non-gender conforming alternative bathroom available. And I don't know. My opinion of it was, I didn't use it. It didn't bother me being there. I don't know exactly what you guys are talking about. Like what is the issue that was going on with the bathrooms? I'd like to know more about that, I guess. But I just wanted to say that, yeah, I mean, I don't have a necessary problem with that.
Okay. Well, I guess the idea is that if everybody is equal, then why would we separate restrooms? Cynthia, do you have any different understanding than that?
No, that is my understanding, and the actual problem I think most people have with it is that men, you know, are apparently we have this perception of men being predators, so therefore they cannot come into the bathroom and have us feel safe at the same time. And if technically I didn't use the unisex bathroom, technically it was me just not wanting to stand in line at the ladies' room and saying that the men's room was almost empty. And I was like, well, they got stalls. What do I care? I don't know how the men that were in there felt about it, but I felt much better for having that.
All right. So, how about the draft issue? So, Cesari, how would you feel? Okay, first of all, I want to ask Cesari, what was your military experience?
Well, first of all, I just want to wrap up with the whole bathroom thing. So
Oh, sure.
I didn't say that. So I've been working on an idea. So I'm still working on drafting an idea to make that point. So I have so many ideas on the, on the mind grill that, yeah. But okay, it's not gonna get past me. Did we say hello to Daniel? I don't know. I just wanted to give a shout out to Daniel. Marcin, are you connected? Are you over there? I just wanted to say hello to Marcin. It's good to see you over there. Marcin is also from Chicago. We met like 6 months ago, and we just reconnected recently.
Oh, cool.
So I hope you get your audio. Oh, he says he's just listening. Okay, cool. Swan, so what's up? Back to you, Staci.
Did you finish what you were saying about the idea?
Yeah, I'm just working on it still. So I'm still
Okay.
developing it.
So then I wanted to ask you, what was your military experience? Because that leads into the draft question.
The military experience, because actually the military experience is kind of connected to the bathrooms. The military does tend to do things very low cost. You don't necessarily have the luxury of getting your own, especially in boot camp. They teach you to, well, basically you just have one line of toilets, and there are no stalls. It's just a line of toilets. Everybody shits next to one another. So, or wait, and in fact, and this was a part of the training. It was really to break you out of your comfort zones. It would be whenever we would get to go to use the restroom, and it was very frequent because you're supposed to be hydrating a lot, and so you're drinking a lot of water. So they essentially send everybody. So I don't know, so you have a platoon of 80 people, and you have one bathroom break. You only have so everybody goes at once, and there are about, I don't know, there's a handful of urinals and a handful of stalls. So it's 5 people to a toilet and 3 people to a stall. That's how I mean, that's the Marine Corps, I don't know, maybe the other services, they get their own things, but yeah, it would be 5 people to one toilet, all peeing all at the same time. And you got, but the other thing is that in Iraq, when I was over there, and so we had our camp, we had our base, and it was kind of in the middle of a field of some sort. And so we had our line, the defensive line, and usually people would end up just going past the line out there to drop a deuce or whatever. And you very often you would have women, I mean, like, and it was a mixed, I don't know, you had men and women, so I mean, you would see women butt naked, taking a dump right in front of, the defensive line, so you could see all that. But that was just the standard. I mean, later did they eventually, build like some kind of facilities, which still didn't have a way to cover, to cover the front. It was just the stalls. Yeah, there was no door on those. It was open. You had some nice fresh air the whole time. But yeah, so that's how we did it.
So are you saying in the time when you had 5 stalls and 5 toilets, that was co-ed?
That was basic training. No, that was not co-ed. That was actually separate. So men and women were getting trained separately in that. That was boot camp.
So did you actually have a co-ed bathroom experience other than happening to see women?
Well, I don't, at the university I used to work, there were bathrooms, like, I mean, there were certain bathrooms where you would have multiple stalls and a sink and a shared sink. And then on the other floor, you would have 2 like private individual bathrooms. And so, I mean, is that what you mean by unisex? Because
Well, I'm wondering what, if you were in a bathroom situation like today in the public, you've got stalls where you can see through the seams, you can see somebody doing their business, even though it's supposed to be a little bit private, it really isn't. Have you been in that situation? Men and women, you can see each other doing it.
well, no, like I said, we've been in a situation where you're just shitting in the field, So,
Okay, that's close
and people
enough.
can see you.
Would you use a co-ed bathroom? You go into a restaurant, it's a hip restaurant, and you got a choice. You can go into co-ed, you can go into private. Would you use the co-ed?
Whatever's faster.
Really? Okay.
Unless I'm on a date, that's a different story.
Oh, yeah. Go to the bathroom with your date. I didn't even think about that.
Or you just might happen to find yourselves at the same time,
Yeah.
perhaps making a lot of noise, and that kind of ruins the romance.
Yeah, that's
Or
nice.
brings you closer together. It depends.
That's true.
Depends if it's your first date and who it's with.
Cynthia, yes, I think the field experience counts as co-ed. Did you
As,
have
as he was telling this story, I was like, oh yeah, that's co-ed with extreme prejudice.
all right. So Cynthia, do you have a co-ed restroom experience in the Army or Navy?
No, but I had one when I worked for the state when I was a snowplow driver. We only had one outhouse. And snowplow driver and an outhouse, you can well imagine what that was like. But yeah, it was all co-ed, and I've never been that person who was overly concerned about what people were thinking as I was trying to do something that my body needs to do. Like, if you have a problem with it, take it up with God. I don't know what to tell you.
That's a wonderful attitude to have. We should all have that attitude.
Like, I'll be nice and excuse myself when I fart or something, so that people have a chance to clear the area. But other than that,
That's just courtesy, right? All right. Well, I want to just share my my idea for the bathrooms, and I am concerned personally about being in a bathroom where people can peek through there. I have had stage fright in my life, and here's my proposal.
Wait, are you talking about bathroom stage fright or actual like stage fright?
Bathroom stage fright.
Cynthia, can you mute yourself, please?
Oops.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, please tell me I wrote this up. Oh, here we go. Gender-neutral bathrooms have become a common topic of debate. Issues of safety and comfort, among others, have been discussed. For those who feel unsafe or uncomfortable, their hesitance may be addressed by the requirement of strong, solid, private structural surrounds for each toilet. For instance, most public restrooms in the USA and abroad have stall walls and doors with margins that allow people outside the stall to view people inside the stall. Under this proposal, stalls would require these areas to be sturdy and closed off so that no casual visibility is available. Because this configuration is common in many public restrooms, such as McDonald's, which is a lower-end fast food restaurant establishment, it should not present an undue cost burden to businesses. In addition, since gender-neutral bathrooms are at this time not required by law, the added cost of upgrading is optional. The fastest way to heal our planet's issues of fear and misunderstanding is to integrate all people into broader society and raise our children in holistic balance. So could I have a show of hands of anybody that agrees with this idea? Cool. Is there anybody that supports this idea? I know nobody knows about it, but that is what we do in Agora. We try to discuss our ideas, and first we get agreement and then we get support. And when your idea is well supported, then you bring it for your, you can choose to bring it for your public platform and try to make the people's will a reality, which is what we're really all about.
I have a bit of an objection to what was written because
Yes.
I've only seen the margins or the gaps in stalls in the USA. I've never seen them abroad, like in Iceland and Poland. I've never seen gaps in stalls outside the US.
So have you had an outside the US co-ed restroom experience?
No, I don't think I've ever had a co-ed experience, just using unisex bathrooms.
Oh, you have used a unisex bathroom. How did you feel about that?
I think I feel the same as Cheshire. They should be implemented everywhere. There's no point in pissing in like a large container with a bunch of dudes. It's just weird.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right. Sazada, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so Staci, I'm actually going to be stealing some of your text. I'm going to be rewriting that into a slightly different idea because essentially, like I was saying before, I think we should just have individual bathrooms with a toilet and a sink. And, you know, and even the Japanese would be disgusted at that because they would say we also should have the, what do they call that thing to wash your butt? A
Bidet.
bidet. Yeah, so you should have that also. You know, they're looking at us like savages, and frankly, they're right. So so yeah, I mean, really, so yeah, we should have more, and having a sink. You know, you should have a sink in that space where you're actually taking care of yourself, and that also helps in case you, I don't know, it depends on really where you are and how many facilities there are. Um, but yeah, some people are disgusting, and maybe all the other toilets are taken, and you want to use that one, and maybe you want to wash it off, so you can actually somebody peed all over the toilet seat or whatever. Okay, so you can actually wash it off and take care of yourself. So, so yeah, so you could, that would be also better. I mean, I don't know. People are disgusting, but I think people would actually be less disgusting. I mean, you know, I'm thinking of like the difference between like a small restaurant versus like a stadium, you know, where you have tens of thousands of people and they're drunk and, you know, they're doing all kinds of things. And then, then they go to the bathroom, they're in a rush. But still, it doesn't really mean that you should be disgusting. So maybe even in stadiums, we should also have individual bathrooms. And maybe if we had those, people would behave themselves better and actually keep them cleaner. But I did want to say that, just like Marcin was saying, in pretty much in Europe that I've seen is, and I don't know if they at any point in time did they try to imitate the United States with the stalls, with the, I think part of that might have something to do with cost savings. It's just less material. Like you don't need, you don't need it to use as much material if it doesn't reach the ground. And so I don't know what that rationale was for doing that. I mean, it would definitely have to do with the cost savings on some level. Just keep the material to a minimum. But so yeah, we should be building regular, regular bathrooms. Give people the privacy they need. What was I going to say? And yeah, so people would probably be cleaner. Oh, one other thing I wanted to say is I don't know how many of you have actually traveled in Eastern Europe, like east of Poland, like even Ukraine, and not all of Ukraine, but more like Central, Eastern Ukraine, Russia. And I haven't been to Belarus, but a lot of those places, because they don't actually have a toilet. They have a hole in the ground. And you're supposed to squat over it. And supposedly that's actually healthier, like that's better for you. One of the things that I liked about it is it's actually cleaner, theoretically. I suppose somebody could still shit all over it, but um, but at least you don't have to sit on a dirty toilet seat, like if somebody. But then again, if people, I'm not against those things. Even that's actually a really good cost savings measure, and it actually is kind of good. But at the same time, if you actually have a sink in that place, so that if somebody does make a mess, you could kind of clean it up, so you could use it, then maybe that would complement it. So I don't know which way we should go, but I don't think it's a bad idea to actually just have a hole in the ground. And it, by the way, it is kind of like a porcelain feature. It's not like just a hole in the ground. It is like a toilet, but it's just flat, flush with the ground. It's like a so it is kind of like a porcelain feature
Thank you
built
for
into
that
the.
clarification. I really thought it was just a hole in the ground.
Did you?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, but sometimes it literally is just a hole in the ground. So
was
there are those times too.
I was picturing the hole in the ground, thinking about so a blind person walking in and landing in the hole or something, or you miss the hole. I feel like there's a lot of logistical issues with that. But if the porcelain frame makes it sound a little bit better, then it'd be harder to miss, I think, that way. But Cesare, if I'm saying that right, I agreed with your point about if you make it a smaller space, like a single person bathroom, it puts a lot more of the onus, I guess, on cleaning up after yourself, I'd say. Um, you know, it, I've been in stadiums with, where you're standing next to 10 other guys going to the bathroom at the same time, drunk or not. But I would say that, in those situations, it's kind of, you're for yourself and you can just kind of do whatever and leave it as it is and it's fine. But I guess on your own, you really like, if you, at least this is not for everybody, but certain people might look back and see the mess they made and be like, well, I want to clean that up, or and they're held to more account if there's a line, let's just say, of people waiting for them, and then they see, oh, this bathroom's all messed up, they'd know who it was. But I think logistically speaking, I was interested to know if you had individual stalls, or I don't know exactly what you were mentioning there, but if you had an individual bathroom for each person at like a stadium, let's say, how exactly would like 15 people, during an intermission or whatever, go to the bathroom at the same time? Like if you wanted to, I don't know, respond, or I just was interested how you would deal with such a problem.
Is that for Staci or Cesari?
Oh, Cesare. Well, just because he was mentioning it, and I was interested to see his viewpoint.
If I may, unless someone is next.
Let's get one response from Cesari and then we'll go to Cynthia.
So I suppose there are a few different places to consider. One of them would be, like I said, a restaurant. One of them would be a stadium. One of them would be a nightclub. How is that going to be? How would that be done? And another place would be like actually a public place, like, I don't know, City Hall or whatever.
Yeah.
You're there taking care of business, and how's that going to work? So, and I think stadiums would be one of those places where you could still, actually, I don't mind peeing in a trough, you know, like, so you could still have like a space where, I don't know, maybe, but then again, maybe that would be more kind of gender specific. So maybe there would be like a gender space where men could just pee in a trough, or anybody who wants to pee in a trough, they could go, because very often that's all you want to do. You don't want to wait to sit down and whatever. So maybe there should be something like that. I mean, frankly, it's just going to cost a little bit more. It's going to take a little bit more space. They got the money. It's, you know, it's not really that expensive. You build it once, it's not that big of a deal. And public spaces, well, definitely. I think you should also have. I mean, you should have decent facilities for the people. The clubs are an interesting thing because that's actually the one place where it is kind of a social space, I think, for some people, at least women. I don't know about men, but I think women actually go to the bathroom to get away from men. But that, you don't have to go to a club. Don't go to a fucking club, you know, or don't go to that club. Go to a different club, you know. So and you could also potentially handle it, you know, that you do have kind of like a place where people congregate with a mirror, with a like a restroom, and then from there you do have individual rooms where people can do things. So and potentially that would be unisex. Maybe all the people would still go to that same space, but then they would go to their own private stalls. uh, and still the market would decide, if people really hate that kind of arrangement, they're not going to go there, you know, have a better bathroom, more responsive to people's needs. Anyways, did that answer all the questions?
Thank you. Cynthia?
Yes, first I wanted to speak to Cesari's point about people behaving better if they're in public. I find that to be true with people, that, you know, they will mind their P's and Q's much more when people are actually watching what they're doing than they will if they're just by themselves or secluded in some place. And two, and I was kind of hoping Cesare would bring this up, because we had this conversation. And his first point is, you know, rich people don't have this problem. They don't stand in line to go to the bathroom. They don't sit in stalls. They don't do any of those things. Like, they have, you know, somebody handing them cologne and making sure that they get to whatever they call a stall in a timely manner. And you know, like, they don't have these problems. So I thought it was a very good point when he brought it up, and so I'm bringing it up again. And also, how is my sound right now? Is it better?
It's good. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing that point up again. That is something that I had not considered either. Was that everything, Cynthia, those, okay. Does anybody have any other points on the bathroom point? And I would like to move to the draft issue. Okay, no more questions or comments on the restroom issue.
Oh, I guess I had one question for you, Staci, because you mentioned explicitly that like the current plans of just, you know, having not unisex bathrooms, but opening up bathrooms for gender neutral, or people who have decided that they are, you know, they are one sex compared to another, how they were born. Like, so currently the plan that stands, is that something that you're against, in that like you are, you know, with the holes in the stalls and the doors being not, you know, very reinforced? Is that something that is a bother to you, or something that like hinders you from going along with that idea?
Thank you very much. That was like a really big point that we had in the last discussion, that it's, all right, so transgender people, I don't know that I've heard a lot of issues about transgender women turning to men. And, you know, we had like 2 transgender people who were contributing to this conversation that made it so great. I wish they were here now. Yes, personally, I have the issue with men in my restroom being able to peek. So I don't necessarily trust, sorry, anybody out there. It's just, I don't know everybody. I don't necessarily trust a man coming into my restroom, whether they're claiming to be or dressing as a woman, whether that makes a difference. I guess anybody that it is, I would like those margins covered. It's just the peaking thing. How do you feel about that?
Myself, yeah, no, I mean, I think it doesn't make sense at all anyways, transgender or not, to have those openings at all anyways. Um, I guess the only thing I was thinking, so cost saving was one point mentioned, maybe just, I don't know, checking to see if there's someone in there without actually knocking. I really don't know exactly what the point of it is, but no, I agree. I mean, that seems like a really dumb way to have it set up, and we just kind of accept it, I guess, because that's how it is.
So would you feel uncomfortable if there was a transgender woman to man in your restroom?
Not, I mean, I don't know if I've ever had it happen. I don't particularly have an issue, I guess, with that. I mean, there could be issues, but I haven't heard of them. As much as like you're concerned with a full-size man coming in and claiming to be a woman, and that could be a very big issue. But the other way around, I don't know. I've never heard a strong argument for that.
Any other comments? Yeah, that's a really good point, that issue. All right, so
Hold on, I have a comment on this. How do we raise hands in your rooms, Stacy? What's the best way to keep
I'm
order?
sorry, like you did in the chat or the participants area, or hand up. I wrote hand up. I should have said that at the beginning. I'm new to this. But I also wrote, you can write hand up in the chat, and I will. Okay, Suzati.
So this seems to be like a really useful, I don't know, idiom or something that I heard. Men's, or no, women's biggest fear of men is that a man will kill, well, that the man will kill them. And the man's biggest fear in regard to women is that the woman will laugh at him. So I think that's funny. I think it's funny because it's true. But it just makes me think, like, if there's a man like peeking at you in a stall, I mean, that's just kind of funny. I mean, like really, that's what you gotta do? Come on. Come on. How do women not find the humor in that and just laugh at these people, Maybe because they'll kill them. But I don't. All right.
I have an answer to that, but Cynthia, was your hand up?
No, I do laugh at them. I can tell you, I worked in bars for years, and it takes all kinds to make the world go round, and the propositioning and big talk that I heard come from some of these people, and they're like, oh yeah, I really got the goods, babe. And I'm like, okay, well, let me get my tape measure out. What you got, Head? Oh no, that's not 7 inches. You lose. But I'm kind of an asshole. Yes, Stacey.
Okay, so I don't know. I don't think that I'm a prude, but I kind of feel like, okay, isn't there a law that says it's kind of an assault if somebody peeks at you when you don't want to be? I mean, isn't there a law against that?
Yeah. There's peeping toms and things of that nature, but when you're talking about a public restroom, I don't know that would really apply.
Okay. Anyway, great convo. Thanks, guys. Does anybody have any comments before we move on to the draft?
Oh.
You guys being in the military, I would love to hear how you feel about women being drafted. Should should women be drafted? And we're talking like into front lines, or should women only be drafted to other jobs that are not front lines? Is there an issue with the way you guys treat each other when you're out there working? Is it a hindrance? Is it a help? I've heard a little bit of what Cynthia says, and I'd like to hear from Cesare first.
Wait, who first?
Cesare.
Oh, I think we should eliminate the draft. I think the military should be completely volunteer based. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, it should always be volunteer based. If that means you have to pay the soldiers, $1 million a year, well, then if it's that big of a problem, then you better fucking pay them, because nobody wants to do the job. So, I mean, I think we should just be relying more on market dynamics, supply and demand. So, yeah, that's actually the draft is really a concept just left over from feudalism. That it's still like one of the leftovers from feudal times. So, yeah, that's definitely something we got to be getting rid of. You can't really do that in a democratic society. I'll pause there. I don't know how women relate to that yet. I'm going to think about it.
Well, okay, then let's say not drafted in, but have you found difficulties? Did you work directly with women in the military so that you could see there was a dynamic? No.
I've encountered women in the military, but I never really worked directly with. I was in a combat unit, so there were women. I would sometimes come into contact with women at doing different things, but not in my unit, not most of the time.
Okay, then just generally, how would you feel about being in a life and death situation? Do you prefer a man or a woman? Any issue, comments to bring up about that?
Well, I do have a comment. I think the main reason why they separate the genders is because it's a lot easier to get people to kill each other when they can't fuck each other. So essentially, if you have men and women serving side by side against an enemy that's also has men and women, people are going to be scratching their heads and they're going to be thinking, wait a minute, so we're going to be going to kill those people when I could actually date those people and fuck them? Like, wait a fucking minute, what the fuck is going on here? This is kind of a bullshit plan. But when you get a bunch of men around a bunch of men going, separated, then what else are men going to do? Like, if you can't fuck it, kill it. That's the most basic neurological response. So, or basically fuck it, eat it, or kill it. Well, I mean, yeah, essentially you kill it to kind of eat it. So yeah, if you can't fuck it, yeah, it's like it's food or sex. I mean, so yeah, anyways, it's really about psychological manipulation. That's why that's the case. So
Okay.
I think we should be working on incorporating women into those situations. I mean, and then the other thing is, like, if you probably men don't want to be thinking about their women getting shot up. Like, there's a funny joke that I heard. Wait, hold on, how did this go? It was, you know what, something about oh, the only thing a man should put inside of another man is a bullet. have you heard of
I hadn't heard that.
no, I mean, that's just like this stereotypical, like, I mean, but that just tells you what the attitude is. It's this conflict between closeness uh, and violence, and so men probably don't want to see their fellow women soldiers actually bleeding to death and be like, well, that was fucking stupid. The hell was that all about? Yeah, probably just men have an aversion to seeing women get shot. Most men, at least, do. So it's just not good for business, not good for the war business. So that's why we should have, different genders, so people are not so inclined to go to war.
Okay, Cynthia?
I am in agreement with my colleague Cesare almost completely, although I have heard something new today and I thought I'd heard it all. I've never heard that bullet thing before. The only thing a man should stick it in, I've never heard that before. And I've been places, I've done things. But if a draft there must be, then yeah, if women want to serve in the military, they should serve in the military honorably and in the same capacity as a man can. And also if I may, during the last time we talked about this, it was brought up that women had like altered push-ups and things to do to kind of get them through boot camp. I think that only serves to make us seem like less than. Like there's no reason why we can't do real push-ups, but they would make us do those weird push-ups anyway. And I can tell you, when I was in boot camp, I actually tried, and they were like, "No, you're breaking formation," and I'm like, "But this sucks." My knees hurt. Like, what is wrong with you people? And the same holds true for things, because Cesare and I have had this conversation too. Like the LPGA, the Ladies Professional Golf Association, like they have like a special course set up for the little ladies, because we all know that they can't compete with men. So we're gonna make it seem like they're equal by giving them a course that's less than, and I would say that's bullshit. That's just my opinion. Yes, Stacy.
So you're saying that there shouldn't be different courses for different levels of ability. It's like, this is the course.
Yeah.
If everyone take it, it's up to you.
If you can meet the physical requirements required to do the job that it takes to get through that course in the first place, then you have every right to serve equally.
I would like to mention something that comes up for me, that the world has been built, it seems like, in great part for much greater physical strength than I can muster. So I just physically can't accomplish things in this world myself. I have to find a bigger person to do it.
Okay.
So when you talk about everything should be made equal, that's what I think about.
Oh, you've never been part of a company or a platoon. Like those guys help each other all the time. Like one of the credos, I believe it's for the SEALs, is never leave a man behind. Like they are always there for each other. It's a brotherhood, and I don't see any reason why it couldn't also be a sisterhood and a brotherhood.
Yeah, but they don't allow women, so that's why. That's what the credo is the way. Or do they actually? Do they allow women in the SEALs? Has that changed?
I don't know. Since G.I. Jane, I don't know. But also, to speak to his point, I think he's actually correct. At the very minimum, it would drive the men to fight harder to protect the women that are standing in front of them. And in the very best case scenario, they would realize that what they're fighting for is not worth dying for.
I agree. I think that if there were men and women fighting together, we'd come to the conclusion sooner that this is stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael?
I guess I had one comment. Yeah, I definitely agree. I hadn't thought about um, like the differences, all men being one group versus men and women being in the same group in combat with another group of, let's just say, women and men, and the psychological impacts that that would have and the implications that Cesare mentioned. It's interesting to think like, yeah, maybe that would have a big impact, but I guess I think it would, but in my mind, wouldn't that then denote uh, the differences between men, or how at least in society we perceive men and women as being different? Like, if men feel that watching another man die is different than a woman dying, doesn't that mean that women and men are seen differently in society? And that thus that they're not that they're not equal, but that they're seen in two different ways. I don't know. That's just my one way of looking at it.
I agree, and that's a big reason why I I'm hosting this meeting. That is there a real difference between men, and is it something you can legislate, or should we just be, no, there's no difference? Go ahead, Cynthia.
If I may speak to that point, Michael, I've seen people come back from war zones and they're not any better watching men die either. Like it's a horror show, no matter who the body belongs to.
Hmm.
I'm just saying that with women there would be more of a, well, the programming would be triggered, and because that's exactly what it is, the programming. Women are this and men are that, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Once we get past the programming, then perhaps we could have some kind of equality, but then you got to think about what does that world look like. So
Hmm.
Cesare, you're unmuted. Did you want to? Oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
good.
So I don't think it's a difference between men and women. I think you could, if you just isolate it, it has more to do with isolation uh, than gender differences. You could take a bunch of women and train them to be, killers and be very focused on something too. I think it's just when you have, because I think one of the main things that drives the mechanism is the fact that it's not like regular society. Because in a regular society, people want to do ordinary things. And so they destabilize that equilibrium by actually separating the sexes or the genders, or however you want to look at it. And by creating that dissonance, that is what enables you to, take those people to some kind of extreme behaviors that otherwise they normally wouldn't be doing. Yeah, it just creates a different dynamic. Not to say, but at the same time, well, but then again, I'm actually thinking, I don't know actually what military units are like that have both men and women in them. I really don't know what that dynamic is like. My experience of that is only for movies, actually. I haven't really personally seen it that much. So Cynthia would have more to say about this, and I'd be interested to hear it. Because at the same time, I'm not insinuating that there would be a lack of discipline necessarily when a job needs to be done. That the two genders, or however many genders, would be distracted by each other when the job needs to get done. Because people can still do that, but the threshold would be raised for when people get to that point, which I think is a good thing. Only like in real serious situations. And the other thing is to consider is that very often, we're talking about this in democratic societies, whereas in democratic, funny. No, but well, let's just say Western countries, but there are, but usually those countries are the ones going to war with countries that are even more sexist, you could say. So, and more totalitarian, actually, with totalitarian-like regimes. So, and those tend to be, I think, very much gender separated based on gender. So, so there is that kind of. So I think that's also something to consider: is how does one what if the two sides, how are the dynamics? The dynamics aren't always the same. You could have men versus men. You could have mixed genders against mixed genders, but you could also have a single gender against a mixed gender. And so how does that affect? Like one of the things I heard supposedly, and I don't know if this was a rumor, but I heard that some of the Iraqi soldiers didn't want to fight because they didn't want to be killed by a woman or something like that. So it was actually so it's having that kind of a demoralizing effect, which is pretty cool. You know?
I think I heard the same thing. I think it was with reference to ISIS fighters were afraid of being killed by women because their religion, puts them. I don't know exactly what the description was, but something similar to that. Yeah, that they were afraid of being killed by I think it was an all-woman unit or something, and they were like notorious in that area for spiking fear in the enemies. So that's interesting point though. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that.
And I would say it. I guess, yeah, I was looking at it more from a gender perspective than like it just, it's so different than let's just take like an 18-year-old going into enlisting into the military, and they've had their one way of life living, as a regular person within women and men, and now they're put in, boot camp and it's just men. I don't know if that's how it works, but then they're separated out even more. They're in a unknown area, someplace they've never been before, and they're given all these tasks, and again they're with only men, and that could play on itself. So yeah, that's a interesting point I didn't consider.
All right, do we have any more comments on those? I would like to try to switch it over to something that's a little more volatile, see how it goes. Any more comments? Oh, Martine, thank you. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just really quick. I'm not sure how much of this really matters, which genders are there, because from all the like war crimes that happen in Iraq and all over the place, it really didn't matter if it was women or men there. But the one issue that I do have is recruitment at high schools. I don't think it should be allowed. These kids aren't allowed to vote, and yet somehow they're idealistic. They really want to do good. They want to help others. They think going to the military is the right thing to do, and then they get fucked over by their country, fighting unjust wars, and that they have no say in. So it's just the age of recruitment is my biggest issue.
Thank you. That is a really good point. That the line that the military will tell the kids is very sad. I knew somebody that was told, if you enlist with your friend, we will keep you in the same unit. You guys all the way buddy program. As soon as they enlisted, separated, and that's a real mind. You know what? I don't think that's right at all. Yeah, we really should have better communication about what is actually happening when you enlist. Anybody else?
That reminds me actually, because supposedly you can't drink to a certain age because of the effect alcohol has on the development of your brain. So, but the military is kind of like, should be kind of treated like alcohol maybe, so maybe the military age should be raised.
I bet you could find out the effects that the military causes to the brain. I bet there's something objective about that isn't good for people. That'd be interesting.
Well, it's not the military. It's actually, there are some really good videos on it, and I'm trying to, I don't know if I can remember of any of the examples, but essentially, I forgot if it was, what year it was in, but the US military invested heavily into psychological research about how to actually train people to kill other people, because usually people don't want to kill other people, and they will just kind of shoot in the air. They will kind of shoot. Like there's this scene, I don't know if you ever watched the movie Black Hawk Down, but like so many different movies where, you will have like, I don't know, US Special Forces or something going up against some kind of ragtag group of, I don't know, rebels or something somewhere. And there's like a whole bunch of them, and they're all shooting, but they're all missing. But the good guys, the American team, or it doesn't necessarily have to be the American team, but they're just taking them out. And it looks like you're watching this as like, oh, this is so unrealistic, but it actually is realistic. That's exactly how it works, is because a lot of those people, they're not trained to kill. That they just they don't have that same kind of programming. And so it actually the training was developed so that people shoot and think later, and you know, they're not thinking about what they're doing, they're just reacting instantly. And so when you can condition people that way, but at the same time, then if so you can do that successfully, but then when people do that for you know, when people have done that and they have killed a bunch of people, that's where that stuff comes back to them, you know, later in as PTSD. So that's where you actually get that PTSD from. That's one story I heard about it. There's some cool videos about it on YouTube.
Okay. If we don't have any more comments, I would like to bring up something that Daniel brought up in the last one. And I apologize for any volatile feelings this brings up, but it's something that I think about and have an opinion about. But the emotional stability of the cause, the issue of hormones, and it can be male or female, but it was brought up about the female hormones during a certain time of the month, and whether that is a real factor between men and women, especially in life and death situations, decision making in the military. Let's open that up. Anybody got some comments on that one?
I'd like to hear from our women folk here what they have to say about that.
I see a big smile on Cynthia's face, but no raised hand. Are you in for it?
I'm just waiting. This is the men's room. I'm waiting for the men to speak. Chick-a-lock.
I say the same thing as Scissor, that I wanted to hear from a woman perspective, just because obviously I don't have the faculties to comprehend what that time of the month really dictates, and how much of an impact you guys think that actually has on your life at that time. And I don't know.
Okay. I will throw out there that my mother said to me, for a certain time of the month, you could hand her a bag full of $1 million and she would look at you and say, "What are you trying to do to me?" And it's my experience that my emotions, when the hormones are running, can be so strong that it's all I think about and it's all that's important. And I don't realize until after it's over how really extreme those feelings were beyond what was necessary for the situation. And and also I'm past menopause, so I've experienced not having those strong hormones running. And, you know, I don't think you could have told me beforehand that this is a real thing, that those emotions, you're going to feel differently when they're over. And so I think that during that time, I don't think women should be, and maybe it's something that we would know ourselves. I'm starting to feel, or somebody can tell us, you know, I'm starting to see this coming up, and maybe it's better off to have some personal days or something. Now, I want to temper that with something that I heard was that, okay, we have that going on 3 days of a month. What is the excuse for men for all of the days? Because, and here's where I think that this comes in. I think it's a little different, but so the male hormones can cause extreme aggression and flying off the handle, which is a little different than I think what happens for women in being highly emotional and feeling emotions too much. So really, is there not this kind of water that we live in, that men don't have the volatile issues? It's just accepted, and we try to use that in the military. But seriously, is there maybe a regular hormonal issue where men could be less volatile that way. I'm just gonna throw that stuff out there. Michael?
Well, I mean, I guess what your ending point about that, possibly that aggression and anger that is more tended for men to have given whatever situation. I think, like you said, it could be more beneficial for the military and for serving in that situation where, again, you don't think first, you just do, and then afterwards you're left with the idea of what happened. So you're not thinking in the moment, you're being irrational, you're using your flight or fight response, and then that's can trigger those things that, I don't know, make it a little bit different for men, and can be used as a positive way of, in the military and in a war zone situation where those things are necessary versus, and again, with women, I know it's very different and dependent on the person, because a lot, one experience is not going to be all of them. And there's certain people who have strong effects of those, period times, and others that don't. It's hard to say for, everyone, this is what it should be, I guess is my point too.
Very true, very true. I wasn't thinking of that. Thank you. Cynthia?
Well, to speak to what Michael said, like, there's a reason that the military starts the clock at 18 and ends it at 25. Like, that's the cutoff to join the military. And there's a reason for that, because that's when men are supposed to be at their peak testosterone levels, right in that area. There's a reason for everything they do. But I would also say that men obviously have hormones, or we wouldn't have seen that debacle of cap. Like, men have hormones, and to say that a woman is being irrational because of her hormones is equivalent to me to saying to a man who loses his temper a lot, you need to get control of your hormones. Can you even imagine having that conversation?
That's interesting. I like that parallel.
Because it's hormones. It's his testosterone talking to him, just like ours talk to us. So how is that different, except that it expresses itself in different ways? And I would say even the externalization of those behaviors triggered by testosterone would have a lot to do with our programming and how we are made to perceive each other in the society in which we live. That's it. I'm done.
I must say, I have never, in my whole life, I've never really been able to tell when I don't know if I can think of it, but I don't know if I could have ever been able to tell when a woman was having her period. Maybe, I don't know. And maybe there were a few times that, maybe I said it as a joke, but it seemed like to be kind of subtle, so I don't know if women are really good at masking it, or it's not that, but maybe it's more internal.
So you never felt like saying, "Oh my God, are you on your period? Are you PMSing?"
Yeah, I guess I think I may have said that.
With like a girlfriend, you never, or like a close partner, you never, like, I don't know. Speaking from my experience with my girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend, any little thing could tick her off if it was that time of the month, and I'd know immediately. For her, it was very emotional. She got very emotional with little things, and if something didn't go her way, the waterworks would start, and that's when you'd know. And I mean, not to say that as a bad thing. That's just what it was, and you gotta learn to deal with it and negotiate those situations.
Yeah, but isn't that like all the time with women?
Well, I was just asking that you never had that specific instance where you felt something like that.
I don't know. Maybe I haven't been around women enough.
Might not be a bad thing.
Well, I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret. As a woman, I can tell you one of the things that bothers me most is when a man looks at me condescendingly and says, "Are we having a hormonal day today?" Because if anything is going to trigger my hormones, it is that statement. Just saying.
So Daniel, oh, Cesare, your hand is up?
So yeah, I just wanted to say that some people are better at handling it than others. I think we should let the free market decide. If somebody wants to take the job and they can do the job, then it doesn't matter what they have between their legs in general. So
So Cesare, you would be fine with, you're out on a helicopter mission and you're being shot at, and you have seen that your partner, who is a woman, can make different decisions at a certain time of the month than normally, and you're going up into a difficult situation. You're fine with that.
oh, one of the things I have not considered would be command positions. Like I never have considered that. So maybe that is a factor, and that I never had to worry about like my commanding officer. And I was not in a combat unit. That's another thing. I was in supply. No, I was in a combat unit, but like we weren't infantry and we weren't like directly on the front. I mean, so some of our drivers and other crewmen, vehicle crewmen, they were, but I was supply in a combat unit. So I've never been in a situation where I had to worry like my commanding officer or something like that. Is she having her period today? So yeah, I guess maybe that is a little bit of a concern actually. I don't know.
Cynthia?
Well, but to speak to that point, so what if your commanding officer is having her period that day? It's not possible for a man to show up and be struggling with his testosterone? Because I've worked for a lot of men, and I gotta tell you, some of them just take that testosterone to like a whole new level. And Staci, I found it very interesting that you didn't ask me who I would want standing next to me in a combat situation, or what was it, a struggle for survival confrontation. Who would I want behind me, a man or a woman? And I would say it would be dependent on the situation. If I'm walking down the street and there's a bunch of thugs or something, yeah, I probably want a man. Am I in a combat situation and she's the one working the M60? I want the woman.
Mm.
And I'll tell you something else. If she's anything like me, I want her on her period, because I'll tell you, I can be, well, back in the day when I did, I was very aggressive person. So, that's just my feeling on it.
That was very interesting. Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
But I just want to add, I think there are probably ways to accommodate for that. And again, I think women in those positions, I think they would have the necessary amount of character to be able to handle that situation and kind of understand if their, let's say, their judgment is being clouded, and so and maybe that would be maybe that's a good thing all around. Maybe because again, you're talking about really a market in a sense. It still comes down to market dynamics. So if that changes, then other things change. It's not like everything else stays the same. Then other things also become affected, and so maybe the system adjusts in other ways to accommodate for those differences.
I really love the points that you guys made. It expanded my viewpoint. So thank you really very much for that. That's wonderful stuff.
If I can add to that too, particularly in a combat situation, like there's not a lot of time for thinking about superfluous stuff. You're very singularly, it's just like they say there's no atheist in box. Like your one and only goal in that particular circumstance is to survive. So I don't know that it would even come into play, because you would be so singularly focused. Like it would matter less what your body was doing and matter more what you needed to do with your body, in my opinion.
That seems reasonable. So, Daniel, you've been very quiet, and this was something that you brought up last time. Would you have any comments for us about this? If he's there, lurking in the background, Daniel? I guess not. All right. Well, we went past our 1 hour point by a half hour. That was really a lot of good discussion. Does anybody have anything else on this point? All right.
I don't have a thing on this point. I did want to kind of shoot an idea through. I wanted to see how you guys feel about like charter schools and private schools, because I feel like sure, it's great now, you know, you have options, but once they start to consolidate and become monopolies, all of a sudden you have this huge power telling you what you're taught and how you're taught it. And then they could just, you know, push agendas easily, like corporatist agendas through the educational system.
Very interesting. Cynthia, do you have any comments about that?
As things stand now, I have issues with charter schools because not only does it reek of privilege, but like it's not well regulated. Like, you know, there are a lot of circumstances where people have abused those privileges and just collected the money on behalf of the students that they were not teaching. I personally feel like if we're going to have an education system, that it should be the same across the board. Like Mississippi should know every bit as much as the kid in New York City knows, and it should be standardized, in my opinion. The fact that people can get a better education, particularly at that level, than other people, I find that appalling, personally, because education is so incredibly important. And I would say it speaks again to the point you made earlier about people being recruited into high school. You know, public schools train children to be factory workers and soldiers. So of course they would go to the public schools and preach to those kids. You don't see them sitting at the private schools doing that shit. I promise you that. You won't see it. And if you do, somebody's parents are going to be making phone calls before too long past it. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Cynthia. Cesardi, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, maybe that would be an interesting topic for next week to delve into it further. But for now, I just wanted to say I think it's interesting how when it comes to education, how unwilling people are to learn from what other countries are doing. You know, it's like most of the things we learned in school were discovered by people in other countries. So maybe we should look at how they're doing education too, you know? I know, but so like there's some good stuff about how, you know, how Finland's educational system works. Supposedly it's the #1 in the world. So why not check it out? You know, so they don't have charter schools. Spoiler alert, they don't have charter schools. But at the same time, I do think maybe there should be some market competition involved in that. Anyways, I think we should save that for next time.
Okay.
I'm kind of spent.
All right. Marcin, so did you state all of your points in that regard? Did you have any others about the charter schools?
No, that's just one of my concerns is, you know, these schools becoming monopolies of like rich oligarchs that eventually push an agenda.
Do you have children that are in charter schools?
No, I mean, I don't have children.
Well, that is a really good point, and I really thank you for bringing that up. I had not considered that. I did sit in on a panel that was discussing vouchers for charter schools way back when they were getting started. And I think I've heard some really good stuff about charter schools, and I know the public system is pretty bad. So that's a great point that I will keep an eye on in the future when I hear more about charter schools, because I do think that that is a great option, but it's something we should watch out for. So thank you. And could you pronounce your first name for me, please?
Marson.
Marson, thank you.
Yeah, you had it right.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have Daniel yet? Is Daniel available for comment before we wrap up here? Okay. Thank you, Daniel, for coming. Sorry we didn't have your comments. They've been really wonderful. But thank you guys for coming so much. So I'm just going to go around and ask for closing remarks from everybody. And let's start with Michael, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was really interesting to hear the different points on, all the different topics we talked about. Specifically women talking about their perspective on the hormones and, not just their side, but, for men and all that was really interesting. And then the two perspectives on the military was something I wouldn't get, just going to people I know of and talking to them about this stuff. So I just really appreciated the responses. I thought it was a pretty cool discussion. Got to hear everybody's ideas. So just thanks everyone for participating.
Thank you so much for coming. And Cynthia, do you have some closing remarks for us?
Oh, yes. I am very grateful for having had this conversation. It has been amazing. Thank you so much. I am so grateful for every person that showed up. I have so much love in my heart for all of you. I'm going to give a quick shout out for Radio Hydrogen, which just posted my podcast. And on Sunday, we have Citizens Assembly Women at 10 a.m., which you are all invited to. The topic will be sexual assault, and my dear friend Laura will be presenting. So we would love to have you. Anyway, again, grateful, love. Agora-ilp.org. That's Agora-ilp.org.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Really appreciate it. Marson, do you have some closing remarks for us?
It was an interesting talk. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks for coming. And I thank you both for your points. It has been something that I will definitely take away from this. It was great. We didn't go to Cesare yet? Cesare, do you have closing remarks?
Of course I do. This was cool. It's great being at a meeting when I get to participate and not have to run it. So thank you for making this space, Staci. What I wanted to say was, so those are two ideas I'm planning on writing something up about. The one on the bathrooms and the one on more equality more equality. See, I want to qualify that, but it should be equality in the military. I think the military can adapt to the different circumstances. If it can't adapt to genders, how is it going to adapt to the enemy? So I'm going to be writing something up about that. But before I do, I still already have some great ideas in my ideological profile in Igora. So I invite y'all and challenge you to check out some of my other ideas. And there was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, and tomorrow is Citizen Assembly introductory meeting. So come and join me in my Zoom room, and you can see the meeting posted in Igora at igora-ilp.org. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. If Daniel doesn't have closing remarks for us, I will just go ahead and say thank you very much for participating in this with me. I really enjoy getting the opportunity to speak with the masculine mind in a close setting like this and talking about some issues that are pretty difficult. And I am so amazed at the different viewpoints that I had no idea about. So again, thank you very much for coming. And this will be every Tuesday, although it is not advertised every week in your area. You are more than welcome to come back and join us every week. So thank you so, so much. And we hope to see you. Oh, I do have one more thing. I wanted to say that the Agora platform is expanding. We're going to be bringing a community level to it. And we're going to start an educational, we have our leadership meeting where we can help regular attendees become leaders. You can conduct your own meetings yourself. And we will also be adding educational, I want to say, presentations, so that we will be helping people understand how to contact their representatives and create Agoras in their area, get together, share ideas, run your ideas by each other. And I have had so much help. Getting all of these new viewpoints has made my ideas better than I ever thought they could be. So I encourage all of you to take a look at other people's ideas, write up your ideas, and come on back and discuss them, because it's really helpful here. It's a wonderful platform, and thank you, Staci, for creating this space for us. All right, so I'm going to stop recording now.